5+ weeks Dub fans have been waiting for his return, and finally we got it at the 4:20 mark in the first quarter. I see you, Steve Kerr, and it didn't take long. What does he do? He gets right to the line and he gets right to work in Drew Holiday's face. Splash. Then, of course, it wouldn't be a Warriors game without 30 from 30, and the immediate gravity pull from Steph Curry on the floor was apparent as Drew Holiday switched off KD and all of a sudden was on Steph Curry. You see him go off the right knee there, not quite the elevation you would hope for, but strategically jumps long, doesn't get the call. This was a chippy game. Drew Holiday and the pace of the Pelicans pushed it all first half. As the three ball was falling much better for the Pelicans, it wasn't for Klay. Draymond all over the offensive glass, and then Andre Iguodala finds Dre above the rim, had another 20-point night. And this thing was physical. It was emotional. Is that the Pelicans' DNA? We know how Draymond likes to play. It was a back and forth frenetic pace. Watch Rondo pick and roll and then precision lob, splitting the double team. AD, two hands hanging on the rim. Now here he is on the glass, big boying Draymond, but 25 points. A relative quiet night for the Brow at Oracle Arena. I think they needed more. They needed to go to him more. One trend in these playoffs is Golden State out-rebounding the opponent. It would be no different on this night. Klay to end the half, off glass. But Klay ice cold, 4 of 20 on the night. Going into the tunnel, desperate men do desperate things. Rondo trying to bait Draymond, but all he did was poke the bear in this game. Steph, second quarter, look at the lean on this one, and then he hits you with the sprinter pose as he watches this go in from about 28 feet. Not only did Steph come back in rhythm, but he came back in shape, looking like it's September. This bodes very well for the Warriors moving forward. And then I told you, you poke Draymond, it may not work out for you. He enters the fourth quarter and knocks down 2 threes and lets the Pels know about it, as AD knows with all that firepower, if Draymond's hitting the 3-ball, you could head to the bus. Now, the game plan was to not let Anthony Davis beat him. Watch them double down and dare Rondo to shoot the ball. He hit a few shots, 20 points on the night. As the game went on and the pace slowed down, the Warriors defense picked up. Look at Iguodala playing the passing lanes. In his younger days, he was known as a dunker, so a dunker can get a dunker's role. And one. Midway through the fourth quarter, no team could gain too much separation. Now it's KD time. What can you do here? You see the position, you see the Dirk Diggler. He drops that as Golden State starts to work inside out. Watch him float to the 3-point line on his way to a 29-point night. Now, Steph didn't have a minutes restriction, only played 27 minutes. He had 28 points. 5 of 10 from downtown as Golden State goes up 2-0 and the Chefs return to Oracle. All right, y'all. So this game was a little more important, I think, than a lot of people realized, because you have Steph Curry coming back, and then you have to protect home court. Game 2, right? This game, if the Pelicans somehow messed around and won this game, all that confidence that was sucked out of them in Game 1, a lot of that is regained by beating the Warriors with Steph Curry and in Oracle Arena. It was kind of a must-win game for Golden State, as weird as that sounds. Starting off, obviously, Steph doesn't start, and you could see they were playing a little too fast. You know, New Orleans wanted to deliver the first punch, and they were playing very fast. The pace was crazy, and you could see Klay and some of these guys who were struggling early on. The pace was too fast for everybody. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Ewing effect, right? So I've brought this up several times. When a star player goes down, the rest of the team in each individual rises their game up a little bit for a period of time, trying to compensate for their missing star. Well, what I think you see happen tonight was a little bit of a reverse Ewing effect. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, who ended up finishing the game strong, right? I think subconsciously, I don't think they'd ever admit it, but it's kind of like they let their guard down a little bit because Steph's back. I think it happens on an unconscious level, and I thought that's what you saw along with the sped up pace and the added aggression from the Pelicans. Now, when Steph came in at 4 or 5 minute mark, right away hits a 3-ball, and he looks a buck. He looks a buck, right? He looks very healthy, jumping the passing lanes, the 3, everything looked good, right? Everything looked good. And I will say that he hit the floor quite a bit, and he didn't seem, tentative. And most of the times, I'd probably say every time he hit the floor, it was on his own will, right? He wasn't like shoved or hit to the floor. It was like he got bumped and he was, call it a flopper or protecting himself, whatever you want. He slid to the floor. They weren't like any nasty type of falls. Now, the Pelicans pace, I know Chris Webber let you know about the Pelicans pace, man. C. Webb. Anyway, I'm going to leave him alone. But the pace that the Pelicans played, and they were very three happy, and it's almost like the sign of a desperate team. The amount of threes, and at that pace, it was almost like they felt like that was their only shot. And I know that they have been playing at a fast pace since Boogie went down, but I think ultimately, big picture, it hurts Anthony Davis a little bit. I know that he's very agile and he's the most athletic, maybe 6'10" guy in the league. KD might have something to say about that, but I think ultimately that pace kind of hurts him putting his imprint on the game. And he, AD, as skilled and as talented as he is, he doesn't really show that dominant will. You don't see Anthony Davis trying to take over a game. He plays within the game, right? And sometimes he has monster numbers, but even when he does, he never feels like he took over. He just does it throughout the game, and the Pelicans kind of need him to take over. You saw Rondo, what did he hit? 3 threes? And I understand his defense and his leadership on the floor, but you saw the Warriors doubling off him, and it really hurt them late down the stretch where they kept daring him to shoot threes. I know he hit one, but that was the game plan, and it's hurting them as far as their spacing and allowing Anthony Davis to try to dominate this game. I think in the second half, though, the key change that you saw from Golden State and the coaching staff was they moved KD from the high elbow to the baseline post on that right corner, right? That was how they operated late in the game. And what that does is it forces New Orleans' help to come from much further away. I know that KD's sweet spot is that high right elbow, but that's an easy place to trap and help from, right? Because it's essentially the center of the court. Moving him down to the baseline, all of a sudden that help is much more telegraphed, and it allows KD to turn left shoulder towards the baseline, and he knows no one can help over, right? It gives him the confidence to pull that trigger. Now, that said, with Iguodala in the game, and he had a great floor game, you got to draw fouls at the rim, Ig. You got to. There was so many times where he got the ball under the basket and he kicked it out, and thankfully Draymond was hitting the three tonight. Right? But those are times where you've got to seek contact and go to the line. I know he's not a great free throw shooter, but whether it's just foul trouble, that's the basketball play to make. And I know he knows that. Clay, it was one of those nights, man. He was a little sped up. You saw him try to force things defensively. He was still solid. Let's talk a little bit about Draymond, because he hit those 2 threes to start the fourth quarter. Those were probably the 2 biggest baskets of this game with the momentum. And you kind of have to take the good with the bad with Draymond and his emotional leadership. And I just want to see him play within the lines of the game. The tangle up with Anthony Davis behind the play there in the first half, I'm not with it, man. I'm going to call it how I see it. Warrior fan or not, I'm not with the grabbing of the legs and hooking and flailing. I'm not with that shit. And that's why he's grown that reputation. Keep it. You can be a bully, Draymond. We know you're a bully. Keep it within the lines. There's plenty of opportunities to bully Anthony Davis just within basketball. You don't need that extra stuff. You're better than that. I will say you saw Rondo bait him. You saw Mirotic try to bait him, and he kept it in control. And my belief is that Draymond tends to blow a gasket when he can't get to the other players. When Rondo and Mirotic and these guys are giving it back to him, it allows him to keep a little more control of his rage, right? When a guy ignores him and puts the hands up and acts like it's not bothering him, it almost pushes him further to the edge. So I think it almost is a mistake to talk to Draymond if you're the Pelicans. But, overall, you can't complain except the end of that game, right? The trapping and the laziness of it's just they let the foot off early, man. We've seen it so many times, but moving forward, does New Orleans really have a home court? I know they kept bringing up, in New Orleans, and I know every team and young team plays better at home, but I don't think they have quite the ruckus crowd, or it's not an environment that Golden State isn't used to. That said, I expect the Pelicans to get one of these next 2 games in New Orleans. What else do I got for y'all? Real quick, go check out this Boom Called It app, y'all. It's a free app, and what it is it's predicting scores of live basketball games, baseball, all that stuff. And if you're in the top 20 each week, you get straight cash. Right now, there's a special program going on, or a promotion, I should say, where the first person to rack up 1,000 points in a week, that's $1,000 cash. So go check out Boom Called It in the App Store. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, yo.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.